all lies will be exposed.
All right, everyone. Cheers and salutations. This is in response towards a story that was breaking just as we ended the morning show. We go live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Central. And since then, I've been taking notes. And look, this is one of those things where I hate being right, where I hate being called out and being correct on. But once again, sadly and unfortunately, this is one of those moments where we have been proven correct, and I don't like it at all, not one bit. And I'm going to play this video before I introduce my two outstanding guests. But first, let me pull up this tweet from Easy Street here. This was a tweet that I posted like around 12:38 p.m. We called it first, and as we have been saying it, Chicago will be next, and this will be another crack into Mayor Brandon Johnson's administration, because Chicago will become an open war zone. Without further ado, I shall play this video in its entirety and then bring in my panel.
I really am honored that the National Guard has done such an incredible job working with the police, and we haven't had to bring in the regular military, which we're willing to do. We have to. And after we do this, we'll go to another location and we'll make it safe also. We're going to make our country very safe. We're going to make our cities very, very safe. Chicago's a mess. You have an incompetent mayor, grossly incompetent. And we'll straighten that one out probably next. That'll be our next one after this. And it won't even be tough. And the people in Chicago, Mr. Vice President, are screaming for us to come. They're wearing red hats, just like this one, but they're wearing red hats. African-American ladies, beautiful ladies, are saying, please, President Trump, come to Chicago. Please. I did great with the black vote, as you know, and they want something to happen. So I think Chicago will be our next, and then we'll help with New York, and we're going to help with, and I think a lot of these people that you see on television, they are, including the people in this audience, they'll say bad things about me, and then they'll say, thank God he's here, because half of them got mugged, and they don't want to get mugged again. But they work for stupid people that are radical left, and they're made to do things and say things that they don't want to be saying. But the people right here are all happy because you're not going to be mugged in Washington, D.C. anymore.
All right. Well, first of all, Matt Weinglass, Jaybefaunt, also known as one of the greatest out of the RBN panel, the great heart of the RBN panel, Matt Weinglass of the Homeless Left. JB, I believe your microphone is muted, but it is good to have you two here joining me at such a short notice. The reason why we are doing this panel is because, of course, the worry that Trump federalizing DC is overall looking like an overreach of martial law. But at the same time as well, as soon as that story dropped, I had my concerns about what city was going to be next. And then, like a ton of bricks, it hit me. It's not going to be New York. It's not going to be Los Angeles. It's going to be Chicago. And there are many reasons why. But first, let's bring in my guests. First, we'll start off with JB and then Matt Weinglass. For our viewers, introduce yourselves and also give us your thoughts on the DC crackdown. Is it spreading?
How are you doing, everybody? My name is Jaybefaunt, also known as Jaybefaunt. I have my channel on YouTube as well, so I'm part of Revolutionary Blackout Network. One of the things that I think especially, and thank you very much for having me.
No problem.
One of the things I think especially is interesting about this is that he's going after the cities that he considers to be blue cities, when in reality is, crime can be high anywhere. As far as, the red states, you also have, crime that happens there as well. You notice he doesn't go after any of the ones that are in red states. To me, this is really just a partisan issue that they're trying to raise. It is really just partisan politics. And ultimately, the really big issue is that this is deviating from what both parties are complicit in, which really is just about the working class and the resources that they do not have, that the material conditions that they're not being given in order to alleviate the poverty, which is a precursor many times to crime. And so therefore it is really just it is treating the symptoms rather than the underlying cause. And so I just see this as a upcoming dumpster fire.
Yep. Also, we got the homeless left, Matt Weinglass. Your thoughts? Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kit. Good to see you, James. And this is definitely good idea to do this panel because you did call this in advance, Kit, and being out there in Chicago. We're here, homeless love. We're here in LA, and so we've also been, as James mentioned, we've been looking at these quote unquote blue states being targeted, and this isn't the first time. It didn't just start with this crime crackdown, DC, Chicago, which you called New York, LA, they're next. But let's look at the history of how this has happened with Trump's administration, which is not, this is theater. That if people think that this is just a unique issue that Trump has brought to the table, this was always the plan. What this is always been about the surveillance state. This is all about the technocratic state, which we've been slowly merging into, and the technology being used in these cities. It's the best place to start. Like you guys are talking about, it's LA, it's Chicago, it's New York. It gets half the country excited that we're cracking down on these blue states and they need to be taught a lesson. And we saw that here in LA with the ICE raids, which are still happening, by the way. But there was this thing a couple of months ago, and we saw the infiltration that we see at all these different protests. We saw them creating the chaos. We saw that right here with our own eyes. And once you create the chaos, you have people speaking out that represent the MAGA side that are saying, yes, let's teach those LA people a lesson. Let's bring in Palantir. And that's what this is about. And we're going to see more about Palantir. And people need to ask themselves, where's this money coming from? Well, the big, beautiful bill came through. And again, not a unique Trump thing. He packaged it like it was his idea, but it was all about bringing in the finances that's going to go towards the surveillance state, AI, all this stuff that we've been warned about, we've been talking about, and not enough people are talking about this, but that's where the money is. There's like $130 billion that was given to this military state. This is so we can patrol the rest of the world. We can continue occupying and genociding the rest of the planet, at the same time surveillancing U.S. citizens. It's not about immigration. It's about U.S. citizens. And like you guys are talking about, it's not just these cities. If you're living in another city and you think that you're safe from this, you're not. Everybody is on the docket to be next in line. So just watch and observe, or speak out and shout about it like we are. But this is happening. And again, it's not a unique Trump thing. This is, both parties are in on it, and we all got to recognize it together.
Now,
can I add something to that?
Go ahead, JB. Go ahead.
Because Matt, you touched on something very important, and I want to thank you for that. But we also got to remember that one of Trump's biggest donors, as well as one of Trump's billionaire allies, is Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel is also head and owner of the company Palantir, which is a mass surveillance company. And people may forget that it was his vice president, J.D. Vance, was also an employee of Palantir. And so really, this is all coming full circle when it comes to the surveillance state. A lot of times people are thinking, well, this is just going to happen in blue cities. No, 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 no. You also got to remember who trains these police in their tactics. Well, we know that they are trained a lot of times by the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force. So with this happening, especially with the ramping up of what's going on in Israel against the Palestinians, people think that, oh, well, we're just going to be cracking down on crime. And then it's moving over to homelessness while not solving the homelessness issue. But it's not just cracking down on that. But you also got to remember that this is going, like, where is the line? And also one of my biggest questions is that if Trump is doing this to blue states, is he also going to give carte blanche? Is he going to influence governors to do this carte blanche within their states, right? For instance, Ron DeSantis here in Florida can do this to Orlando. In fact, there was a threat here in Orlando for the ICE agreement, for Ron DeSantis wanted the ICE agreement to be signed. And because of our county mayor, Jerry Dimmings, who is also a cop, you know, as a side note, he said he signed the damn thing because he felt like, well, Ron DeSantis would actually take him and the county commissioners out of office and then replace him with whoever Ron DeSantis wants. And my question is that actually a democratic act, or is that more of a totalitarian thing? And so we're seeing this happen slowly, not even really that slowly, but consistently over time. And now we're seeing that we don't really have a say over our own public safety, and we don't have a say over how this country is being ran.
Mm-hmm.
And all the people who have those flags that say, don't tread on me, my question is, where you at?
Right. So I do want to bring up an interesting comment. So we got somebody who said, I would rather live in a country protected by its military than ignored by its government, I would assume. So let me address this thing, because I've been getting a lot of messages from people saying, well, Kit, some who watch the show say, like, hey, you've been calling, like, saying that Chicago was going to be next, or Chicago was going to be first in line after DC. And what's happening in Chicago? How are people going to react to this? Are people going to resist? Let's be clear. First of all, with the actions that the Trump administration has taken in regards to clamping down on DC, removing crime, let's be clear. Nobody wants to be mugged. No one wants to see loved ones hurt or assaulted or kidnapped in any which way or form. The concern is, okay, as soon as you start instituting or federalizing, or either that bringing the National Guard into the streets, there becomes a blurring effect of the actions of the military and the separation of a civilian government. Now, Chicago. Just so that the people on the right know, yes, I get this all the time. Chicago is a crime-ridden city. Absolutely. I know it. There are problems in Chicago, but it's far deeper than just thinking somebody waking up one day wanting to do crime. This is called decades and generation of abuse by a political system that Chicagoans did not vote for. People say you voted for this. No, electoral turnout for Chicago politics have been abysmal, because we know what it's like living under the Democrat machine. It's not communist. It's not socialist. It's not Leninist. It's not Marxist. It is a neoliberal corporatist machine. And I cannot stress this out enough. If you want to have a prosperous city, do not let somebody like Old Man Daley come along. Okay? Because he turned the Democrat machine, him and his friends, turn the Democrat machine what it is. Read the book American Pharaoh, and you will see just what he has done to this city and how irreversible it is. These politicians are the problem. So yes, you could bring in the National Guard and federal agents and bring in law and order, but you just handled the rash. You did not handle the cancer that's inside the body, and that is in City Hall. Chicago has perfected neoliberal feudalism. I was going to say neoliberalism, and I sure as heck was going to say neoconservatism. No, we have perfected neoliberal feudalism, in which you have a seat, such as an aldermanic seat, or either that, a mayoral seat, and have it passed down to a family member, a friend, somebody of that nature that will continue on your power. And the Democrat machine is right now at its weakest, and there is an opening now, and there's a growing resentment. So unlike other election cycles, because our next election cycle will be in 2027, there is potential for it to be a high turnout. And I say this because in the 2024 election cycle, Matt, you were actually part of that power panel, in which 2 districts in Chicago, for the first time in decades, actually turned red, and that was from the group Chicago Flips Red. And this is in part because of, first of all, the failure of Chicago being a sanctuary city. That's adding fuel to the fire. On concept, I remember when it was first being brought up, and Hard Lens Media, we did bring out some warnings like, hey, wait a minute, do we have a plan? Can the city afford this? And there have been nothing but tragedy. Jamal Green, one of the dauntless few people who I think, in my opinion, has Chicago's best interests, called out how some of these shelters were not only properly not maintained, but there were incidents, for example, one in particular, where on the south side of Chicago, a shelter was being built up without the community knowing about it. Now, the community didn't want that shelter there, but they had another altruistic reason why that shelter shouldn't be built there. It's because it was being built on a Superfund site. Dangerous chemicals and metals, those migrants would be exposed to it. So when we look at the city and the crime and the problem is with the politicians who have rigged the system. Free and fair elections in Chicago, I wish. Free and honest elections in Chicago, I can only dream. So with all of this being said, I only have 3 things to say about this. There's going to be a group of people who will be embracing Trump coming in here to punch the Democrat machine. There's also going to be those with the Trump derangement syndrome who will be rallying around the Democrat machine under the false hope that's going to protect them from Trump. And then number 3, the vast majority of people who will be confused. It is in my opinion alone that I think Mayor Brandon Johnson will be a one-term mayor. It is in my opinion alone that in Chicago 2027 for our city election, it will be a war zone. There will be many factions and groups, and this will probably be the most intense Chicago primary in our city's history. And we have a choice here to make because right now we are $1.6 billion in debt at a point of no return. I return to the panel. Matt, I'm pretty sure you're chomping at the bit. You shoot first, man.
Yeah, no, I think you hit it on the head with the majority of people are going to be confused. That's the largest group that you mentioned. And the reason that is that's by design. I want to go back to this element of the comparison you made, Kit, to the analogy you're making to like an operating room, comparing this to this cancer that's only going to be done on a surface level. You're not getting to the cancer. I'm going to go further and say this isn't a cancer that people are looking that these agencies, that the government, that these people in the think tanks, they're not looking to solve it. They create the cancer. This goes back to what Jay's talking about with the IDF training. We have to look at how the police state is created. You create the crime on purpose. You create the chaos on purpose. You create the confusion and the everybody get in their camp and be mad at the people next door to you and not understand that the whole thing's a big chessboard. So these cities, that we were talking about, this is done by design to give an excuse to bring in what needs to happen next. So this isn't like, oh no, we don't know how to fix this. No, you create the problem. If you wanted to fix the Chicago crime problem or any crime problem, you go into the you specify the actual city itself. You would look at the corruption in the city itself, which it is. I'm not sitting here saying there's no corruption, but you don't step back and make it a federal issue and bring in an outside force. That's the way the IDF works. That's the way. That's the training we have is to go into a foreign area and wreak havoc in a way where you're using an offensive force first and asking questions later. That is how we're trained. That's how our police are trained. That's why police are never patrolling the area of where they live. They're always getting assigned to places outside of them. That's the mentality. So if you escalate this to a federal level, it's for the purpose of control. And I go back to the censorship, the surveillance state that we're creating. And of course, it's about Palantir. We got to not stop talking about Palantir because so many people don't even know about Palantir. And they were the biggest receivers of the biggest funding coming from the big, beautiful bill. There's about $130 billion that is now at the hands of Alex Karp and Peter Thiel, and they're able to use this money. And we can't totally see that paper trail yet, but we're trying to look and see at it. Like what are they going to use it for? Well, this is certainly something they can absolutely put that money towards. So we should be looking closer at that and saying and seeing that this is actually a game they're playing on purpose. They're not trying to cure the cancer. They've created the cancer.
And exactly. And look, this is, again, I want to be clear on this. When I'm talking about the migrants coming here in Chicago, I had a fear that this was going to happen. And there was a lot of people assuming that once Biden beat Trump in 2020, that Biden, or use that by proxy, I guess not, since we now know how it all played out, Kamala was going to somehow, maybe out of a miracle, win the 2024 election cycle. Now, I think I'm going to speak not for myself, but I think pretty much even you two guys saw the writing on the wall that Kamala and the Democrats were walking into an epic disaster, especially from the also fantastic DNC convention that took place here actually in Chicago just last year. But I remember asking this from 2017, 2018, 2019, being in the field, even asking guests on the radio station when sanctuary cities were first being proposed. Do we have the resources to do so? And always there were three answers I got. Yes, we're ready. It's going to be a little complicated, but we know we'll get help from DC. Or three, and this one really hurt the most. Oh, you're being racist. Oh, you're a Trump supporter. Oh, you're this, that, and the other, which is anyway, so less said the better. I want to be nice. All right. I got a great panel here. But as soon as they were implemented, they were just left on their own. And it added more fuel to a city that's divided. Black communities were being denied resources. Schools were being shut down still. Neighborhoods were being gentrified. All communities. And sadly, Chicago isn't this liberal paradise. Yes, Chicago's a beautiful city. I love my home. I love this city. But it is a hyper segregated city. I'm going to say that again for people paying attention. Again, it is a hyper segregated city that has that has a long sad history of each district looking out for itself rather than everyone kind of working together, which explains why the Democrat machine has been walking on top of us and been succeeding so far in dividing us. But the main problem is the politicians. It's the lawmakers in City Hall. And there are a handful of good ones, just a handful. And I'm being generous even using that term, handful. But this city has no plan whatsoever. And I just want to pull this up here because this was from earlier in August, all right, which is probably what's going to lead Trump to even add in his agenda to potentially come into this city, because Mayor Brandon Johnson showed an absolute, made an absolute horrible decision. Or is it that somebody should have worded this better for him? We're at a point of no return.
We have reached a point now where there's no return.
Right now, Chicago is facing a $1.1 billion budget gap for 2026. The financial burden could be even greater because of a pension bill signed by Governor Jaybefaunt, which has increased retirement benefits for police and firefighters. That added over $11 billion to the city's long-term pension liability.
I'm committed to making sure that the ultra-rich and those with means put more skin in the game.
The Chicagoland Chamber of Commerce has called a step backwards for economic growth.
These things are bad for business. They're bad for jobs. They're a direct disincentive for employers to hire people.
And that's where the video pauses. So, gentlemen, JB, I'll give the floor to you. Overall, with Brandon, because I know RBN has talked about Brandon Johnson and all these other fantastic mayors that have either abandoned their constituents or either that keep on doing nothing more than failure. So, Brandon, so I'll give the floor to you, James. Brandon Johnson saying that we're in the hole.
Where do I start? As far as he's saying that they're in the hole, my question is, why didn't you push for policies that you could get you out of that in the first place? Like, for instance, ultimately, as somebody who says they're trying to fight for working class people, how much does Chicago PD get? How much money do they get per year in funding as compared to other programs?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if it's anything like the NYPD, then I would say that as far as giving them more money, I say that money should have been diverted to help, the most disenfranchised and small businesses to be able to open and thrive more. But the problem is that it's always focused on the wrong groups, the groups that either as police or the owners of the means of production that always end up getting the huge slice of the pie, whereas the rest of the people who are the working class end up holding the stick with the poo on the end of it.
Mm.
And so it's like, okay, well, we're in a hole that we can't get out of. The problem is that you're not going after the white whale. You know what I mean? Which can be caught, but you just don't want to do it because why? Because you're looking for their donations for when you run again, aka bribes. It's silly. As far as Chicago goes, I really do think that the source of one of the biggest issues in regards to the crime in Chicago, which Donald Trump is really going after, really should be in improving the material conditions of the people on the ground there. And I'm not talking about the people in the suburbs. I'm talking about the people in the hoods, from the hoods to the hollers out there. Problem is that they don't necessarily have that much influence. So therefore, they're not the main block of voters that they want to please. So they're not going to do things for them in order to increase their material conditions. So what do? So they're going to go after the middle class, which are people who are upper on the economic ladder, because they think that they're going to be able to influence them more so that they can get the votes. When in reality should be about the people who need it the most, which the people they disregard. And this is not just limited to Chicago. This is really for every single city within this country, right? From the small towns to the big cities, that's how it happens. But ultimately, it's because they want to shirk their responsibility to the people who are the most vulnerable in favor of currying favor with the people who have more financially. And that's one of the biggest issues, is that they're kissing up really to the people who have the money versus the people who are the most disenfranchised.
You know, and it does bring out an interesting point of overall how it's gotten to this point, because, you know, many people would assume that Chicagoans, or at least here in the city, that there's party loyalty. Well, there is, and that's those who are benefiting from the machine. But the vast majority of the populace right now, there's been an increase in taxes, or at least that. Now, some aldermen are pushing back on the increase of taxes, which I have to say is a godsend, thank goodness. But there is again a growing sign of people wanting more change. And with the crackdowns that we saw that took place in February, when ICE was first going into these major metropolitan cities, we noticed something, and that is the Democrat machine did not fight back. The Democrat machine just let it happen. And it's also important to note that it was a promise that many progressives, or either that those die hard, is still enough to believe that the Democrats believed in the idea of a sanctuary city. Because I always felt that this was a feel-good talking point for a lot of liberals and Democrats to say, because they wanted to look better against Trump. And there was never any real afterthought or either that any kind of common sense in thinking of, okay, if we're going to really say we're a sanctuary city, can't we follow through on it? It was all nothing but feel-good points. Case in point, right here in 2024, where you have everyone at the city town hall in Chicago calling out Mayor Brandon Johnson, especially towards the migrants in the city. And again, this is one of the key issues that has enraged a lot of residents on the south and west side neighborhoods of Chicago, because for decades, these areas have been impacted by, again, industrial pollution, schools being shut down, gentrification, and a lack of resources. I always say to people, if you want to see the Chicago experience, take the red line starting from the north side, go all the way down to the south side, and you'll see things quickly change. And it's still true to this day. But this video right now has been garnering got a lot of views way back in 2024. And once again, this is one of the members of Chicago Flips Red that has actually been gaining more momentum. And Trump actually referenced them in the previous video that we started for this live stream.
You all stood up there and said you will not allow Trump to come in here and get these illegals. Yeah, you can smile. We're in a $1 billion deficit. And you spent half of our money, half of that on illegals. You campaign and double down that you would not raise property taxes.
I won't raise your property taxes.
You wanted to raise our taxes $300 million. They shut it down. Now we back here for $150 million. Okay. See, this is what we asking now. Since you want to crash out, some of y'all say y'all willing to go to jail for it. Trump, Tom Homan, make an example out this right here first. Please come here first. Don't spend our tax dollars to go. Michael Rodriguez, you said to take Trump to court to protect these illegals. That's cool, because we about to make all of y'all aldermen famous. Y'all think this is how it's gonna ride? I think not. Flip Chicago red. We not playing.
This was going to. Now I want to pause here. I actually had one of the members of Chicago Flips Red, and Matt, actually, you were with me for that interview. And I, at least as it stands right now, the reason why I find their actions pretty impressive is because they did so without the Illinois GOP at the time. I don't know if they've been engaging with them or not, but that miracle in itself says a lot about the voter turnout for November 5th in 2024. And that's what I mean in regards to how 2027 will play out, because for those who are part of the Chicago Libertarian Party, for those who are part of the Chicago Green Party, for those who are independent, non-affiliate, if there's ever a time in which you want to raise your flag against the Democrat machine and throw a wrench in the mechanics of what is making that machine run all over us, this is your opportunity, because never has there been a moment where residents have absolute hatred. And I'm just going to add this in here too before I play the rest of the video, and then I want to give the floor to Matt and then of course to JB. I've never seen so many people hate a mayor more so than Lightfoot. And Mayor Brandon Johnson, the fact that you are more hated than Lightfoot tells me that you are an all-star professional of being a absolute screw up. Now, I know there's a lot of blogs out there. I want to give a shout out to one of my Kick live stream chatters, Dr. Nick. Look, I don't know if he's truly having panic attacks, but if I was in his shoes, I think I'd be having more panic attacks than Tony Soprano did in the entire season of The Sopranos.
What happened to you? You got Cash Patel and Pam Bundy that you're going to have to deal with sooner than later. Then it's going to be an audit. Next, it's going to be an investigation. Then it's going to be an indictment. Conviction. That's what's going to happen to you.
Mr. Brandon Johnson, I'm up here. I am speaking right now, so I would love your undivided attention, please. I'll wait. So this just proves to you the lack of leadership that you show in this city. You can't even give me straight eye contact. Now, I'm going to let you know now, the people of Chicago, we're done with you. It is insane how we have been voting Democrat for over 60 plus years, and we've never seen a change from people like you, Lori Lightfoot, Robbie Manuel. It is insane. Chicago was 37% red. In 2020, it was only 15%. So we're waking up. So you can pretend that this isn't happening, but I know for a fact that you will not have that seat the next election.
You so strong about protecting those aliens, but you won't do nothing for the U.S. citizens.
So that's the rage, and that was from last year. Since then, the entire city, or at least I wouldn't say maybe not the entire city, but it's as this continues to happen, and should Trump institute the full-on call of National Guard mobilization or more federal agents in the streets of Chicago, Brandon Johnson will be ill-prepared to face any of this, as will JB Pritzker. They'll put on a show, but in my opinion, I think Trump's going to run over them. First of all, Matt, I want to give the floor to you.
Well, I am reminded by that panel we did with Chicago Flips Red, one of their reps. And I remember the moment that there's a lot we can agree on here.
Agree.
We got to have
agree.
Yeah. I think the thing we're talking about, throwing a wrench into the system. Like I'll say, on one hand, I'll say this: any of them getting in there, speaking up, calling him out like that, that takes courage, it takes conviction. It's good to be vocal, but I don't know if there's a wrench being thrown into the system. I feel like if the idea is that we go through this charade of auditing and switching people out, which you have to switch people out if they have been ineffective or have screwed people or done exactly the opposite of what you voted for. You switch them out, but the machine continues to run because you're saying, on one hand, the Democrats have failed. On the other hand, let's bring in, what do they talked about bringing Bondi and Patel, people that are going to come in. What are they going to do? We talked about Elon Musk. We've talked about this Doge, right? This idea we're going to hold people accountable, show what they did, show all the horrible things, all the money laundering. And what are you going to do with that extra money? You're going to funnel it into something else. You're going to funnel it into it specifically with these people. It's into Israel interests. It's into military industrial complex interest. That's where so it's not going back to the taxpayer. So you can scream about it. And again, I give props to people calling out corruption. But just like with Doge, where did the money go? I thought it was going back to the American people. No, it's going into more military spending. That's what that is. And we're not really going to see a paper trail. And I think another thing people got to understand is none of these people ever end up in jail. They get yelled at, they get shamed, they get taken out of office. You bring in the new people, and then there's just kind of this back and forth from red to blue. So this idea of like flipping, Chicago flips red. I'll just end with this: the conversation we had, Kit. I remember bringing this up. Like, what is the Chicago flip red? What is their stance on military spending, on foreign policy? And
agreed.
Do you have any ability to hold Trump accountable? And the Chicago money that's going to go into that, because believe me, you guys know that our taxpayers, our city money goes into foreign wars, that occupation, genocide, all this stuff. We know all this. So what gadget do you have? What mechanism do you have to hold this red? You have it all over your shirt, going red, flip red, flip red. Where's that mechanism to hold them accountable? And I remember the answer was, well, that's not, we're not really concerned about that part. That's foreign stuff. We care about Chicago. I'm like, but it's all connected. We always come back to that on our show. It's all connected, man. So where's that mechanism? So again, I go back to it might feel like a wrench being thrown in, but I feel like it's the next chapter of going the back and forth. You screwed up, let's bring this one in. You screwed up, let's bring this in. When are we going to get out of the duopoly? When are we going to get out of the uniparty? I think that's the question I have overall when we watch this unfold.
Agreed. And looking at, and I remember our interview with Flip Chicago Red. I mean, I think the action of how they're able to turn two blue districts red is something I would never see in my lifetime. I mean, my family's been living in Chicago for 4 generations now. That's something that's unheard of. I can't believe even I witnessed it. But at the same time, too, look, I'm going to tell folks, the Illinois Republican Party ain't no different than the Illinois Democrat Party, okay? And as somebody who witnessed his state go with 2 years almost with no budget, as we were struggling to make ends meet, as the Illinois Democrats and Illinois Republicans were going back and forth, and then we had the most expensive governor's race, at least at the time, in 2018, between Governor Bruce Rauner and soon to be the new governor, J.B. Pritzker. It's abundantly clear that no, going to the GOP or going back to the Democrats or vice versa and vice versa again over and over again, the Uno reverse card is never going to change until you rip it up. And that means you have to break away from the two-party system. But the issue is that you have Trump now doing a semi-victory lap in which 2,000, again, where he deployed about 2,000 armed National Guard troops as well as other federal agents in D.C., and he has set his sights on Chicago. And I'm wondering then if he's also setting his sights on, again, quote unquote, lowering crime. Is there also going to be other people on his target list? Is there other people in which he might want to silence and suppress or go after? Because Chicago is a whole other different animal than Washington, D.C. JB, I want to give the floor to you.
Yeah. So as far as what the people who are speaking are frustrated about, the Black community, particularly the Black American community, has been sticking with the Democratic Party ever since the 60s. And so the frustration is extremely high because they have been lied to over and over. Unfortunately, a lot of the members of the Black American community, of my community, have been brainwashed into this binary thinking that, okay, well, the Democratic Party, we stuck with them all these years, we're frustrated with them, so we're going to go to the other side.
Yeah.
Because they don't know another side to go to. Yeah. Let's be real, let's be honest. How many of them knew who the Libertarian Party candidate was last year? How many of them knew who the Green Party candidate was last year? How many of them knew that Dr. Cornel West was running last year? Most of them probably didn't know who the hell that was. And so in their mind, it was Harris, Trump. And we've tried the Democratic Party for years and years and years. Nothing happened. Now we're going to go into the other direction because they don't see another way out there. They're basically trying to find a way out of what is going on, but they're only given two directions.
Yeah.
And so this is the unfortunate part about this system, is that they say, oh, you only have two choices. When in reality, there is a third and fourth choice, but they don't, the powers that be don't want them to know about it. And then on top of that, one of the biggest things is that Black Americans have been, marginalized and suffering throughout this country, on this land for 400 years, in this country for almost 250 years. And so whenever there comes time for Black Americans to actually get recompense, not just for what we and our ancestors have suffered, but also, to be held up, because we're citizens. But the problem is that they feel that, well, we see that people who aren't even from here are getting just a little bit more than us. That's not fair. And who will we point at? Well, we're going to point at the politicians. Not, and they know that the corporations are also part of it, but they can't fire a CEO. They can't fire a billionaire. But they can, in their mind, fire a politician. So that's who they're going after. And so it is even more egregious because you have a Black man in Brandon Johnson that is doing this. And so the disappointment came with Obama.
Oh, of course. Yes, I remember that.
Then it came with Harris, because we all did our research and found out about Harris. And now we're looking at Brandon Johnson. We're like, dude, what are you doing? And so the problem is that Black Americans in particular are extremely frustrated. And instead of speaking to the needs of each group and what their particular needs are, and also the overarching needs that the working people need, Brandon Johnson really just, derelicted from his duty. And now it's to the point where they're like, we're suffering out here. What do we do? And unfortunately, now you have some people, especially within my community, the Black American community, that feel like, well, crime is going up, things are getting bad, and so therefore we'd rather have a little bit more control from the government in the form of the National Guard coming here, so that at least we'll feel safe, while not realizing that Trump is doing it not really for the safety of these people, for the safety of Black Americans, but really is for the control of everybody else. But the problem is that what happens when you're forced into a system with two binary choices, false binary choices, they see that as, oh, well, we can only go either way. And the door to something, a third option, is invisible. And so it's like a hologram brick wall. It's like there's nothing right there. So we only have this fork in the road. And so that's one of the biggest issues I see. And the only way to be able to get out of it is really through education and talking to our neighbors. But the problem is we're so divided right now because of the system, because of the corporate media apparatus, as well as there's divisions between, not just divisions between different racial groups, but even within the Black diaspora. And so that's one of the biggest issues. And so one thing I try to tell Black folks, it's like, look, leave both parties. But the problem is that to them, it's like, we have no other way. So what are we going to do? That person is just going to fail. And that, in their mind, that person is just going to fail.
I also want to pull this up here too, because people have been asking, well, what's Governor J.B. Pritzker going to do? Because he is right now being singled out as a potential Democrat challenger in the 2028 election cycle. I know it's already there's talk about him becoming a pick for that time, and we're not even there yet. And he went on, of course, to challenge Donald Trump by mentioning these three things, which I would say to J.B. Pritzker: our state is in the hole, Mr. Billionaire Pritzker, and so far things people are begging for: cheaper groceries, No medicated snap cuts. Release the Epstein files. Again, with this right here, Democrats, I remember not too long ago, you guys said that this was a hoax. Now Trump's saying it's a hoax, and you guys are saying that it's real. Look, just listen, both parties are filled with scumbag criminals and people who knew Mr. Jeffrey Epstein. So again, this whole idea of release the Epstein files, yes, they should have been released a long time ago. Things people are not begging for, an authoritarian power grab of major cities. Governor J.B. Pritzker, do I have to pull out the Wayback Machine when you actually ordered the National Guard out too in Illinois during the 2020 lockdowns? Because I remember that. Unless I'm taking crazy pills, I remember driving down an empty Lakeshore Drive and seeing Army, National Guard, Humvees, and light armored vehicles blocking certain points from entering into downtown city of Chicago. I remember that driving on the LSD, that Lakeshore Drive. I'm going to call it that. That's what it is, LSD. I'm not going to call it by its longer name. Listen, I'm an old school. I'm an old man. You know, can't change an old dog. But that's what I remember. That's what I remember. And in turn, of course, this was the response from many Chicagoans. I want to pull up this video here. In regards to Trump saying that the National Guard and federal forces, federal agents will be coming to Chicago.
President Trump announcing he could soon send National Guard troops to Chicago to crack down on crime.
That threat coming despite the fact violent crime in the city has been declining for the last few years. WGN's Courtney Spinelli is joining us live near City Hall with the details here. Also, reaction from local lawmakers. Courtney.
Micah and Ray, good evening. While the president is making that claim that this is all part of his plan to crack down on crime across the country, some local lawmakers are calling this a political stunt. The president shifting topics during a press conference this morning in the Oval Office. It came as he was praising the guardsmen already deployed in the nation's capital. Trump says while he is willing to bring in the, quote, regular military, it isn't something they have had to do. He signaled again.
And let me be clear, because I want to give a shout out to John Kemper. Absolutely. I don't want that. I don't want federal agents or the National Guard or the military to be deployed in our streets. I don't trust the GOP to do the right thing. I don't trust Trump to do the right thing. And I don't trust the Democrats in Chicago to do the right thing. But what I am expecting for is now Chicagoans to finally wake up to reality and realize that both parties are screwing us over. And that means really enacting our citizen ballot initiatives, our city ballot initiatives to actually fight back. And that means doing mutual aid. That means actually not trusting these older men and these older women and these mayoral candidates that are going to be coming around in 2027. Yes, let's get engaged, but let's do it a different way. We could still save this city, but we can't use electoral politics to get our way out of it. I'm not going to trust Trump or any Republican or Pritzker or Mayor Brandon Johnson to do the right thing in the Democrat Party. They're not going to do it. We're on our own, and that means we have to step up. So Chicago being targeted next is not a sign to give up, but it is a sign for us to fight back. Next thing you know, I'm doing Hardlands Media live, and then all of a sudden the police start coming in and arrest me. That'll boost the views for the algorithm.
And he's narrowing his sights on Chicago. The president made a similar comment several weeks ago as he slammed Mayor Brandon Johnson and Governor J.B. Pritzker. He claims crime in the city is out of control. However, police statistics show violent crime, including homicides and shootings, are trending downward.
Chicago's a mess. You have an incompetent mayor, grossly incompetent. And we'll straighten that one out probably next. That'll be our next one after this. And it won't even be tough. And the people in Chicago, Mr. Vice President, are screaming for us to come.
Trump's order to send hundreds of troops to Los Angeles is currently at the center of a legal challenge and likely would be the same if he tried to do this in Chicago. We spoke with Johnson, who believes a National Guard deployment to the city has the potential to inflame tensions between residents and law enforcement. He says the federal government could help address areas of investment they're already working on, like housing.
All right, let me pause this here because people are saying, Kit, do you have any bets that the South Side will fight back like actual self-defense if things get heated? I don't want any National Guard, any federal agencies to be doing Gestapo-like tactics, knocking down doors. Yes, there's a crime problem, but I would prefer it then if the federal forces, the National Guard, would be storming City Hall like they did in the Blues Brothers. You want the criminals? That's where they're at. You want the crime and the crime bosses? That's where it's at. You want to know where the heart of the corruption's at? It's in goddamn City Hall. But do I think there will be pushback? There might be some examples here and there. Might be other areas that'll welcome it in and not know the cost of it. Because I can tell you one thing, those corporate overlords and those construction deals for gentrifying Chicago are still going to happen. So whether you're against it or you're going to be accepting them coming into your neighborhood, just realize those bulldozers are coming in next to demolish our homes, make it so it's unaffordable. There is only one winner if we continue to lie down, and that is the two-party duopoly that is playing the Uno reverse card, tricking us into thinking that this is going to be a good thing. If you got a hammer in your hand and everything looks like a nail, it's going to be a disaster. Yes, there's problems in Chicago, but the way of doing a proper surgery on this sick patient is not by beating it. It is by going to the core center, and that is at City Hall. Just want to address that. So I hope that's very clear.
Community safety and education, but says sending in the National Guard won't do that.
Here's the bottom line.
Oh boy, this guy.
As mayor of this city and mayors across this country, we know exactly what it takes to drive down violence and crime in our cities because we're actually doing it. The city of Chicago has experienced unprecedented levels of violence reduction. It's really a shame, quite frankly, and offensive that this president who speaks in the name of law and order would do the opposite.
Okay, first of all, Mayor Brandon Johnson, again, allegedly, there's a lot of posts on Reddit where people are saying he's allegedly, he's been having panic attacks, allegedly. But every time I hear Mayor Brandon Johnson, the moment of weakness happened this month when he said, hey, we're at a point of no return. We're $1.1 billion in debt. We're $1.1 billion in the hole. Mayor Brandon Johnson, if you want to be a one-term mayor, there were easier ways of doing that than just saying, hey, we're $1 billion in the hole. Just say you're not going to run again in 2027. Save yourself the embarrassment. JB, take the floor.
Well, just here's my thing. If I were Brandon Johnson.
You don't want that. Don't put that evil on you, JB.
Oh, hold on.
Don't put that evil on you.
What would I say? The more artful thing to say was, I thought Republicans were against big government. Why are you using big government to go into our cities? Why don't you just let the voters decide how they want their city ran instead of sending federal troops into the cities? I mean, they say they're not for big government, but yet this is big government, right?
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. Matt, go ahead.
No, that would be a way to do it. It's we saw a similar thing here with I mentioned the ICE raids earlier, and LA was definitely the litmus test, how people would respond, and the way Newsom, the whole this and even like this kind of setup right now of Trump taking on Johnson. We had that with Trump and Newsom. They're going at it and they're saying their little sound bites that are given to them, and it's all theater. None of it's real. It's just to get people stirred up and go attack the other guy and act like this is a boxing match. It's sports. It's like this is the mindset. And this goes back to what you were saying, Jay, about the people cannot get out of the mindset of the 1 and 2. That's all you got. You got East versus West. You got the championship match. You got every 4 years. We're going to take, it's not this side. We're going to go to the other side. There's so much more to politics the way it's supposed to work. And we know this instinctually. We know that it is not about, and I don't mean to harp on the guy, the Chicago flip red, but there's something that's not, it's not succinct. That message of if you don't do it, we're going to go over here. No, we have to prove to the entire system that we're capable of not voting for them. I think it was Lawrence O'Donnell who told us that, like back in 2010. He said the only way you're going to get anything to happen where they're going to acknowledge your existence at all, and he was talking about the Democratic Party, but it works for the Republicans too. You have to prove to them that you're capable of not voting for them. So this is not about, does this third party candidate have the legs and the ability to get, that's not what it's about. You have to remove yourself. I will tell everybody right now, if you haven't done so yet, remove yourself, go change your voting status right now to non-party. Just do that. Let's just start with that. If everyone did that, you don't have an allegiance to, you don't have an obligation. We were given this misconception growing up when we became a responsible voter that you had to pick a side, and if you were undecided, you were stupid. You guys remember that? You're undecided, you're stupid. No, the undecided voter is the most powerful voter because I don't owe anything to anybody. You come get me. You come get me. I'm not going to. You come to me. If everyone did that, that'd be a great place to start. And I'll end with this. We're seeing this safety. Trump's looking out for us. Trump's going to clean up DC. Trump's going to clean up Chicago. This is not about safety. One more time, guys, we all lived through 9/11. Some people didn't. The younger people didn't. But we know about the Patriot Act. We know about the Homeland Security apparatus that said we have to fight them over there so we don't fight them here. Put everybody on this database. Check everyone. Get rid of your freedom. You got to sacrifice freedom to have freedom. We know all these taglines. And Trump, I got to remind people, Trump got into office originally, the 2015 moment, his big moment on that stage against the other Republican candidates. And he called out Jeb Bush and the Cheney philosophy of the illegal wars and the illegal torture programs and all the things about Iraq and Afghanistan, everything that was wrong about that. And he said, we're not going to fall for that anymore. And that's actually what people wanted to hear from a presidential candidate, especially from a Republican candidate. And now we're back to this. We have digressed. We have to remember. Let's not memory hold this stuff and know that these are the things we look for. We look for these are the red flags when you say it's for your safety. We're all in this together. For the greater good. We have to look for those red flags and call them out and detach from the duopoly, detach from the uniparty. That's the only way we can get anything to start happening for the people, because it's not going to happen otherwise.
And I can guarantee this, because after covering not one but two city elections, 2019 and 2023, seeing that entire city election play out, both those elections play out. First of all, as 2024 still resonates with me, I'm not voting in this election cycle. I look at Chicago and I realize that, first of all, Brandon Johnson, he's a one-term mayor, and whoever's going to be wanting to vie for the throne, I mean, if you've got a good, strong policy, go ahead and convince me, because I have to stand true to my values, and that is being an independent. But again, if this is going to be confusing to anybody, please understand that the candidates that will be running in the 2027 election cycle, theoretically, technically, verbally, they are running as independents. But as soon as they win that seat, they got to put the D around their neck. And that's the truth of it. The Democrat machine will get what it wants. If Chicagoans really want to turn it around, it is a matter of knocking on doors, doing mutual aid, and that means every single resident's going to have to step up. Otherwise, here's the real truth of it. If nothing fundamentally changed and this Chicago election cycle in 2027 turns out to be just like any other election cycle, which I hope not. I hope that this is the year where maybe people give middle fingers to both parties, to anyone associated with the party. Because no, I don't think anyone with Team Red or Team Blue is going to save the day. If nothing changes, Chicago will be a dead city. If we don't reverse the damages that this mayor and previous mayors, these aldermen, and what the previous aldermen have done to us, Chicago will be a dead city. It requires action. It requires the mutual aid and community outreach and shaking and waking people up. And this is where independent media comes down. This is where we, as all of us, have to start getting on the ground and being vocally and verbally involved with communities and actually spreading the word about stopping the two-party system. Because if you have the National Guard in the street, fine. You're stopping a petty thief, but you're not stopping the real criminal, and that is the Democrat politician, the Republican politician. I mean, already in D.C., they're already joking about how they're doing insider trading. We already know it. They're getting away with it all the time. So the problems in the city isn't with the people, but yet the people are going to suffer because of the actions of the politicians. We're suffering because of their crimes. We're suffering because of their wrongdoings. And in turn, the next generation will be carrying that debt.
Yeah. Hey, Kit, I got a point that I want to make. Okay, it's funny how, like, for instance, one of the things that they want to stop is crime like theft, right? But they want to stop the people who may be stealing out of a store or trying to, steal a car. But what about going after the people that are stealing your wages? Because wage theft is literally one of the, if not the biggest form of theft that's being done in this country. And it's by guys in suits that are doing all the stealing. Why aren't we going after them? Also, why in the world, like, we're talking about this, but yet, just like we were talking about the Epstein files, what is that coming out?
Hey, yeah, we're still waiting for that. When's that dropping?
Yeah.
I'm like Judge Judy. That's how I feel. And I'm like, okay, so you want to do this, and then you want to send 4,000 Marines down to Venezuela for what? Because you want to take in, Nicolas Maduro over drug trade, which in reality, if you want to start off with people bringing drugs into this country, start with the CIA.
Yep.
If you want to start off with the drug problem, why don't you start off with the police departments in South Florida that were actually making crack cocaine in their own police precinct buildings, which they're actually being sued over. Oh my goodness. If you really want to start off with the drug trade, or like Donald Trump, you want to talk about stopping crime, then why don't you go after that white lady that was actually trafficking fentanyl into our country who worked at the LA County Sheriff's Office? Oh my God. Isn't that interesting? While we're talking about it, if we're seriously going to be going after people, if you're a law and order president, then I want you to do this for me, Trump. I want you to grab a pair of handcuffs and I want you to go to the airport. And as soon as Benjamin Netanyahu, he lands on this soil, I want you to lock him up too, because he needs to be locked up as well. Yep. But you won't do that because honestly, you don't care about that. And on top of that, if you really talk about crime and wanting to bring restitution and order to this country, why in the world are you skirting the fact that you and this government should be paying reparations to American freedmen who have been wrong for the last 400 years, 250 years of the United States history? But yet you don't want to do that either. So that's my point. It's like, it's just hypocrisy upon hypocrisy upon hypocrisy. And this is no slight to just them and not the Democrats. The Democrats are just as bad too. The problem is that Donald Trump and the Republicans, they're the ones in power right now. So they're the ones that need to be shit on right now. Yeah. And so that's what I'm looking at.
Agreed, man. Well, but the thing is also we have to remember is that when you have the media and the two-party political system, and they play the game, and the game has been played very successfully. And this is where I feel like I'm becoming so jaded because I'm hearing so many young people say like, well, if we vote for Democrat, I was out a few days ago, and it was just like, if we just support the Democrats, things will change. Like if we just vote harder. And you can't vote harder, you can't convince anyone to change when the Democrat Party is a dying brand. And then trying to go to Team Red, no, that's another dying brand because you have these same Republican lawmakers who are turning a blind eye to the Epstein files. I mean, my goodness, so many people have gotten away with it. And looking at Chicago, it is going to be a microcosm. And perhaps maybe I'm overthinking about Chicago being a war zone. Perhaps maybe I'm being too much doom and gloom. But when you have a city severely in debt, when you have a city in which you have politicians where you could say, yeah, my alderman's going to jail, or this is like the fifth time my alderman is facing criminal charges. There's something wrong, and that is the body politics of Chicago. That is the alderman. It is the districts. It is how things are designed in the city. And in order to do that, I guess Chicagoans themselves, we have to break away from the hyper segregation. And see, the thing is, what worries me though, is that a song and dance number that we're seeing in New York City could happen to us. And I'm talking about Mandani. All right. I have to say, at first his win was something to be impressed about, just a little bit, just a tiny little bit. But then as soon as I hear how one of his super PACs got 250,000, then he's getting that phone call from Barack Obama And then how he has other Democrat lawmakers coming. I just see that happening in Chicago, where we'll have a Mandami-like clone. And again, if Zoran was really serious, if he was, which he wasn't, he wouldn't be in the Democrat Party. He'd be running as an independent. But New York City and Chicago, since both of them are in two different states, but both states have one thing in common. They're extremely rough and draconian towards third parties and independents, except for some reason, Cuomo and Eric Adams seem to get that little pass. Again, how they got that pass is a fantastic miracle, but probably it's because they got name recognition. So for everyone looking at this, I do fear that we might get a Zoran-like clone, and I'm just knowing right off the bat that as soon as that clone wins, if the clone wins the primary, it's like, okay, then he goes right back to being a centrist. I've seen it before. Why? Because Brandon Johnson sort of was kind of running on some policies, but he never followed through on that. That's why.
Yeah. No. So look, the Kit Mandami, what we know about him is, I agree with you. There's nothing to celebrate right now after he had like one great moment. I say great,
and that's over. That's over now.
That obvious moment where he's the only one that said, I won't go to Israel when I get elected. Oh my God, he won't go to Israel. After that, yeah, he's not a clone. He's a improved version of Obama, an improved version of Bernie, an improved version of AOC, where they've worked out the kinks and they got him to align with the Uniparty before he got officially elected. Not like AOC, who had to wait to day 3 to start calling Pelosi Mama Bear. So of course, there's another one of him coming, and it's going to be a more improved version. So we just need to not get distracted and act like there's anything to celebrate there just because you said an obvious thing, or you said the G word. Ooh, you actually said genocide. Good for you, because Bernie won't even say it. With that said, the points that JB, you were making earlier, the great question that we all have to ask, what you asked. The question is, why isn't Trump doing these things? And these should be a call to action for anybody who ever considered themselves MAGA, anyone who considered themselves Maha, anyone who considered themselves, a former, Bernie fan or AOC or whatever, from all the sides that consider themselves ready for something new. But you still think that there's a hope that he's got some 6D chess, 10D chess. The reason he's not going after the CIA for drugs is because we want oil from Venezuela. Both parties want it. The reason he's not going to arrest Netanyahu is because Israel runs our foreign policy, period. That's both parties. And the reason the Epstein list, and I'm leaving this for last, the reason the Epstein list ain't coming out, because both parties are part of this corruption of protecting the world leaders, the world's functionality of the elite, of the global elite, would fall apart if that list came out, if those files came out. It'll never come out. Listen to what Trump's saying. Everything he's saying is contradictory. He just today said in that same speech you played earlier, Kit, he said, Bill Clinton was on this plane. It went to the island 28 times, but I don't want to bring that up. By the way, the Epstein thing was a Democratic hoax. He said that in the same minute.
Right
if
here.
You guys don't understand. He's not fumbling. He's not making a mistake. This is him telling us he's not in charge. There's nothing happening right now that is being run by either party. There's the powers that be above it are making this happen, and we have to wake up and see how obvious it is right now that doesn't make any sense at all.
Well, don't worry. I'm pretty sure Michael Tracy's going to come ahead and have a great defense for the words of Donald Trump, which, by the way, again, I actually did a segment on Michael Tracy, and I'm still trying to figure out what the hell he is complaining about. And after, watching him double down and triple down on his statements, I'm getting more skeeved out. But here's the infamous video in which Matt just referenced. Let's go ahead and play this, because this also took place as soon as Trump said, hey, Chicago's on the hit list.
Your Justice Department is also sending some of the Epstein files over to the House Oversight Committee today. Are you in support of them releasing all of them?
Keeping it open.
If they wanted to release,
people shouldn't be hurt, but I'm in support of keeping it totally open. I couldn't care less. You got a lot of people that it could be mentioned in those files that don't deserve to be people, because he knew everybody in Palm Beach. I don't know anything about that, but I have said to Pam and everybody else, give them everything you can give them, because it's a Democrat hoax. It's just a hoax. The whole Epstein thing is a Democrat hoax. So we had the greatest 6 months, 7 months in the history of the presidency, and the Democrats don't know what to do, so they keep bringing up that stuff. But it affected them. Bill Clinton was on his plane and went to the island supposedly 28 times. I don't want to bring that up, frankly. You have Larry.
Why don't you? I want to know who's on the list.
Well, you just did, by the way. He did. He just brought it up. Said he doesn't want to bring it up. Says that the Democrat. It doesn't make any sense. Democratic hoax. But don't talk about Clinton. It's just it shows you that Carlin was always right. They're all in a club. They're all in one big club. It's one big club, and you ain't in it.
And thank God you're not. Thank God you're not.
Whatever his name is, Summers, the head of Harvard, who was Jeffrey Epstein's best friend. Nobody ever talks about that. I mean, but I don't want to hurt Larry Summers, but he was best friends with Jeffrey Epstein. No, this is a Democratic hoax to try and get the significance of what we've done over the past 7 months. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. They say it's #1 in history. What we've done.
Oh, good little boy. Good little boy. Good dog, Trump.
Oh my God.
By the way, again, I just want to throw this out here for everyone that's paying attention. Remember, you had people like Dan Bongino and Charlie Kirk and everyone else who was a Republican influencer from 2019 all the way to 2024 saying, oh, yeah, and even a little bit in 2025, talking about releasing the files. And I remember on the Trump White House lawn, you had all those influencers jumping up with dockets that was already available. And then all of a sudden they say they don't want to talk about it. I want to talk about it. So I don't care about Trump going to different cities because, at the end of the day, it's a distraction. Just like trying to, go into the city. It's all a distraction from us paying attention to the Epstein files. The story is dying on the vine. I did have hope.
But by the way, real quick. Was it a Democratic hoax to call everybody that went to see Sound of Freedom that they were QAnon, conspiracy theorists, right-wing idiot that wanted to go see a movie about child sex trafficking? Was that a Democratic hoax? Was it a Democratic hoax for 4 years that Biden was in office and did nothing about the Epstein files? Was that also a Democratic hoax? I'm just wondering for my fellow, MAGA out there who's listening to this garbage. That's it. Just wanted to chime in on that.
Go ahead, JB, take it.
Just to add on to that, I live in Florida, and Pam Bondi was the Florida Attorney General at the time when they did the sweetheart deal with Jeffrey Epstein.
Oh my God. By the way, I want to give a huge shout out to Hotspot. Shout out to Nico House and a lot of other great people here as well, because these are some little interesting tidbits of information. First of all, Ghislaine Maxwell cleared Trump's name of any inappropriate acts with Epstein, even though Trump said a few weeks ago that he had a falling out because Epstein was poaching some of his workers. Ghislaine Maxwell says that she does not believe Epstein killed himself. Oh, so what? Was he murdered? Huh? Really? And also one, Ghislaine Maxwell claims Epstein worked for any intelligence agency is bullshit, which I call bullshit on. I think she's trying to get a nice little sweetheart deal because she's out of that maximum security prison and inside Club Fed in the state of Texas. Club Fed, where, hey, you could be a full-blown criminal, commit all these crimes, but so long as you follow the orders, you'll be able to play tennis at 9.
Yeah, he wasn't murdered. I'm thinking he was more. Epstein was Seth Rich, where the botched robbery ended up dead, nothing stolen. That's what I was thinking. More of a Seth Rich situation. But
exactly. But again, it is a fascinating situation in which you have a sitting president now calling it a hoax. It's all a distraction. Just like trying to come after any other institution, or either that talking about war in Venezuela, or either that trying to have a peace deal with Trump, even though I don't think there's going to be a peace deal or ceasefire taking place anytime soon for the war in Ukraine, because then all of a sudden, once that thing is done, people are going to be asking more questions again. I want to know who's on that list. Listen, I know there's a crime problem in Chicago. There's crime everywhere. To quote the Hound from Game of Thrones, when Brianna Tarth was telling Arya Stark, "Come with me and you'll be safe." No, the Hound told her, no, her whole family's dead. There's no such thing as safe, you stupid bitch. Just had to throw that line out there because there isn't. And if you don't deal with the root cause of Chicago politics, which is the Democrat Party, and if you think putting in the Republican Party is going to save the day, no, it won't solve the problem. The contractors and the construction teams are still going to be gentrifying our city, and there's still lead in our drinking water. And we're still $1.1 billion in a hole. And the Chicago Teachers Union is also, again, struggling with all their amount of debt. There's no plan except to get the people to fight each other. Chicagoans, Americans, wake up to reality. It is a game in which they have us hating each other. It's like that scene from They Live. They've done it. They had us consume all the crap, and so long as we obey and fall asleep, nothing's going to change. And we can't have that anymore. Matt, I think you want to add in something here. I know we're going a little bit over time here for you. I know you got to be heading on out here, but I want to give you the floor.
No, I think we covered it all here. If you're watching this conversation right now and you still think that there's a chance that one of these parties is going to reform or get better or just get the right person in, I don't know what else to tell you. We're trying to connect the dots for everyone. We're trying to show you that they create the problem, they create the crime, they create the drugs, they create everything in order to say we have to police you, we have to keep you safe. And we are, make no mistake, everyone, we are in the surveillance state right now. It's Terminator, it's Matrix. Don't forget Minority Report. I guarantee you, Palantir, they have a pre-crime division worked out right now. Kit, you were talking about the door knocking and shutting off your power and arresting you. It's not
political police.
You did, Kit. It's going to be something that you are going to do in the future because AI is going to tell us your behavior patterns, that you're going to commit a crime. So we're going to stop you before you do it. And that crime is probably going to be on the lines of saying something like, I don't know, free Palestine. That's your crime. So welcome to the reality that we are in the future. It's arrived. And Hollywood told us in all the films. So you guys should have just watched all those films. And now you know that we have arrived.
Yep. It's the sign of the thought police. So, folks, will Chicago be a war zone? It's always been a war zone in one form or another. And no, that's not talking about gang war. I'm talking about Chicago just being a city. But before there's any negativity, I have seen so many good people, activists, organizers, community outreach, religious leaders, just regular neighbors and good people stepping up and helping each other out. It's not this dead city. It can be a dead city if we let it happen. But I love this city. I love it. It is my home. My great-grandfather was born here. My grandfather, my mother, and myself. I love Chicago. I don't trust the politicians. I hate the politicians. I don't trust the establishment because the establishment did this to our city and we let it happen. But it's not too late to actually reverse what they've done. And the key thing is actually stepping up and saying no more. JB, I want to give the final word to you. And then, of course, Matt and JB, I want to make sure you guys plug your show so people can know where to find you. And I really appreciate you guys taking time out of your day joining me for this late evening live stream.
Thank you very much. The last thing I'm going to say, and I'm going to really reflect on what you just said, is, look, if you really want to change the system, you need to build worker solidarity, do mutual aid, and build dual power on the ground. You're going to do much more good than either one of these parties ever could. And find a mutual aid organization if you live in the Chicago area, either Chicago proper or within, the outside in the county. Try to find a mutual aid program, get together with your neighbors and help your neighbors as much as possible. See your neighbors, see yourself and your neighbors, and just try to do what you can to learn about why the system is the way it is. And always think about this. Number one, who benefits? And number two, like my sister Sabby Sabs always says, follow the money. See where it goes. See who's actually benefiting from all this. And then you will find the truth. But stick with your community members. And then you guys can always find me at Jaybefaunt on all the socials, as well as on Revolutionary Blackout Network. That's Rev Black Network. And you guys can find me on, you can find us on YouTube, Rumble. I'm also on Kick now as well. So I'm part of the Kick family.
Welcome to the Kick propaganda. Welcome. I know, Matt, you're definitely on Kick, right?
No, we were doing with pasta. They were doing we had pasta to go. I don't know if Truthwire's on there just yet, but I was kind of piggybacking. No, I haven't done that officially with Homeless Left yet. No.
Okay, all right.
But I will. We will.
All right, there you go. There you go. All right. So Matt, where can people find you online?
The Homeless Left on Rumble. That's our main channel. Unfortunately, our Homeless Left on YouTube got terminated for having conversations
Again?
like this. No, the original one. I want to tell people, because if you're looking up the Homeless Left on YouTube, you're not going to find the Homeless Left on YouTube. It's THL Presents. THL Presents. It's actually doing shockingly well. I thought they would have pulled this one as well, but we're not going to stop even if they do. So guys, please help us out on THL Presents on YouTube, and we'll take it as far as we can until they pull the plug again, and then we'll just think of a new name. We'll never run out of names, but we're also never gonna run out of conversations. So we're gonna keep doing what we're doing.
All right, absolutely. Gentlemen, I want to thank you guys so much for joining me in Heartlands Media. We are live every Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Central on YouTube, Rumble, Kick, X. Support us on Patreon. Follow us on Instagram, X, Facebook, all the good social media. Keep the show alive on Patreon. Help us out with our GoFundMe and everything else in between. We do appreciate all the solidarity and support. I want to give a shout out to all the people, all the moderators joining me for this conversation. And you know what? We'll see what happens. Maybe Trump will get his way. Maybe he won't. But there's one thing abundantly clear. Fuck the two-party system. To hell with the Democrat Party. To hell with the Republican Party. I want everyone to have a beautiful weekend. I want everyone to have a prosperous weekend. And just remember, talk to your friends and neighbors, and let's break this duopoly, okay?
And free
I'm
Palestine.
tired. Yeah, exactly. Gosh darn it. As we should all the time, every time. We got music by a good friend of the show, Jesse Jet. Jesse Jet, who's number one in the hood. Everyone, loving every one of you. Where are the gators and pancakes in the chat? That's what we should have. Shout out to James, JB. Shout out to Matt Weinglass, and of course, yours truly, Kit Cabello. Peace to you guys. Have a great evening, and let's all do what we can to build a beautiful, prosperous, better future. All right, guys.
Who are these people?
This is easily the most heartfelt love song I ever put my pen to. There's nothing you could say, nothing you could do could ever make me falter from loving you. Twice baked potato with cheese and sour cream. Twice baked potato with bacon and chives. You're twice baked dream. When they brought you to the table, I could see it in the cheese. You were looking for that special someone, and I knew that someone was me. Twice baked potato with cheese and sour cream. Twice baked potato with bacon and chives. You're twice baked dream. Oh, twice baked potato. I've never loved anyone as much as I love you. And you know something, sweetheart? These fast 5 minutes that I've spent waiting for you to cool have been the best in my life. And I'll never forget you. Now the ring that's on my finger, oh, it's an old potato skin.
still serves as a constant reminder of that twice baked love I was in. Twice baked potato with cheese and sour cream. Twice baked potato with bacon and chives. You're a twice.
I'm wearing pants, people. And I love you too, Jesse. I love you too, buddy. There you go. All right. Yes, I'm wearing pants. I'm wearing pants. I'm wearing pants. Have a great evening. Love all of you lovely, beautiful people. Shout out to my kick people. Shout out to my ex. Gonna give it to you, people. Rum bumble bumble, a rumble in the jungle. Rum bum bumble. And my YouTube people. Now, of course, as always, let's end this on a little bit of a happier note. Shall we? I think so. First of all, with some fun dancing. Actually, I just realized something. Hold on. First of all, I got some super chats here. Oh my goodness, I forgot this. First of all, Roger Meadows tipped $2. The Italian, Jewish, and I'm not saying that. That's gonna. Yes, I hope everyone enjoyed the show. Shout out to my main man Hassan. Prediction pre-election. Some kind of tea with maybe there you go. And Roger Meadows tipped $10. Truth is, he wouldn't be in this hole if he didn't push native Black Chicagoans aside and gave all those benefits to migrants. And then when Black people voiced out of town halls, he ignored them. That's what happened. That's what happened. And now for dancing, because I don't think we got any Rumble rants, but if we did, let me double check. I think we're good. Shout out to RB Ham. Shout out to everybody. Now for some dancing. Now we're dancing. Now we're dancing.